Good morning, baseball fans, and welcome back to Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. Do not be fooled by that fancy name. It's just me and some friends talking about baseball cards. And back to friends. Really excited to do this one. This show kind of came out of when I did my show about my 1970 autograph set. Allon got in touch with me, and I knew him. We had met at the Shriner show almost a year ago, and stayed in touch. And of course, we're both on YouTube, so there's conversations here and there. And he emailed me about his 74 collection, not intending to come on the show. And then I said, well, this would make a great show. So why don't we bring on Allon and we'll do the show? So this is going to be about his 1974 set build, autograph set build of the 74 tops, but also like a little bit of discussion about the set itself, and then just basically like concepts and methods by which you would go about getting autographs. So really, hopefully, very instructive show, but you're also going to get to see some cool cards. So stick around. Let me bring Allon on right now. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, like I just said, I mean, I reached out. You reached out to me, and
Yeah.
I don't think you were anticipating that it was going to be like a show, but then I'm like, oh, this would be a great show. There you go.
I saw you talking about getting the 1970 top set, and I was like, hey, like that's totally my ballgame. That was me as a collector for 15 years, was just trying to get stuff signed, and it moved into the 74 set. And I was like, I need to let you know like that. I just love the video and I love the thought behind it, and I wanted to share like, hey, I'm doing this too, and just thought it was a really great thing.
Well, I hope that's not my internet, but you're a little choppy. But yeah, I mean, I think the TTM world, which I was a big part of, I was a big part of the TTM world for a period of time, and then COVID hit, and then suddenly I wasn't mailing out cards anymore, and then a couple of years go by, and I pretty much run out of guys in the 1970 set who were sadly still alive. Not sadly that they were alive, but sadly that so many people aren't alive from that set. And also people that were due TTM. So I pretty much ran the gamut on that, and I'm only due one set. So that kind of pushed me out of the TTM world, but I still do them. I still do them occasionally. So I like to start these shows off by talking about like your collecting history, like the Allon like origin story. So tell us about you and your collecting history.
Yeah, so like a lot of people my age, I'm 42. I kind of got burned by the junk wax era, and as I graduated high school, I found that most of the cards that I was collecting, people didn't really want to buy, and I was like, baseball cards don't have any value. But what I did love was sending through the mail, and so I re-entered the hobby after college, primarily as a TTMer. So I would check. I'm a member of sportscollectors.net, and I would check returns every day. So I knew everybody who signed from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I knew everybody who was signing. So I would go to shows, and Dan, I would go to Shriners, and I would skip all the vintage tables looking for bargain bucks where I could find 10-cent cards to send out through the mail. And that's how I re-engaged with the hobby, was through the mail. And looking for cards to send to represent baseball history as best I could. Rookies of the year, World Series winners, and then, I ended up picking out a lot of cards from the 70s up and sending them out. And it wasn't until about 2017, 2018 where then I started, hey, vintage cards are actually really cool, and I get it a lot. They have meaning to me as well. So then I shifted more from TTM to focusing on collecting vintage cards and Red Sox vintage cards most primarily. But for a dozen or so years, it was TTM.
So obviously, your name is Boston fan. So
yep.
I guess that kind of
so that comes from. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm very creative with how I come up with things. That was my moniker going back to the AOL days, and I was like, what, I'm just going to keep it and stick with it. It's easy, and that's I do. I collect Red Sox. I love collecting Red Sox history. Both, I focused on it with autographs. For a time before COVID, I was trying to put together a collection of every Red Sox autograph of all time, and I got to close to, if not just over 50% of the all-time roster, with cuts and index cards, government postcards. Yeah. and that was where my hobby dollars went, was through the mail and picking up deceased Red Sox players. And
Wow.
then after COVID, it shifted more towards
So
vintage
tell us
cards
about
and certified
we
autograph business cuts.
subject of the show is 1974. So tell us about how you decided to, do the 74 set, autographs.
Sure. Yeah. So it was, there was a couple stages for me. So first, as I said, I knew all the guys that signed in from 60s and 70s. And when I first went back to shows, there was just a plethora of 74 tops available for 10 cents. It wasn't highly valued. Same with 73. So I picked up a lot of those and sent a lot of those out. And had, I would have binder pages and binder pages of 74. And that's, I collected anyone who signed, so it wasn't strictly 74. But then I would say around 2016, I saw in an auction catalog several partially signed sets where the set was complete and only a certain amount were signed. And to me, that sounded like a great idea. So I was like, you know what? I have 73 and I have 74. I want to put together a complete set of all the cards and then just get as many as I can sign. It wasn't a transition to I want it fully signed set, but seeing that people were doing that and other people were interested in that kind of thing, kind of resonated with me in a way that I was collecting. And so it came down to 73 and 74 because I had a lot. And I found that I preferred sending the 74 cards out just naturally. There's a lot of things I like about it. We can get into it, but going from the images to the time period to the different players represented as we move in baseball history from the 60s into the 70s. 74 has a great crossover of that. And I like the simplistic look, the big pictures. And so 74 is what I said, you know what, I'm going to focus on this when I send out and spend money on TTMs and fees and whatnot. And so I became a 74 collector. I liked a lot of the players in it. And yeah, I just kind of went from there. So it went from just having a lot of 74s to realizing I can build a partially signed set. And that's a thing that I maybe hadn't thought of before. And I jumped the 74 bandwagon after that.
Well, I know from 1970 that it's impossible to complete the set because two players passed away before the set was even issued, and a third player died, or actually several players died within years of it before autographed cards was a thing. So it's really not possible to do it. But you can get into like 600 range. You might even be able to get up mid 600 range. Now, 74 has 660 cards in it. Is it possible to do the entire set?
So as far as I know, yes. I don't think any players died before it was printed. There are, with any set that you're trying to get signed, there are going to be some white whales in there, some that are very hard to find. I pulled a few out. So Danny Frisella on the Braves, he died in 1977. So there's a 3-year window in there where it could get signed. And then Danny Thompson, who was a Minnesota Twin, he passed from complications of leukemia in I think 1976. So those would be the harder ones. Certainly possible to have them signed, but I don't think anyone passed away in 1974. So if we're comparing the 70 and 74 sets, it is theoretically easier to find and complete a 74 set should you want to do that. Again, every set
one
you're going
player
to
in 70,
87.
Chico Ruiz passed away in 72. So in the 70 set, it is theoretically possible. And in fact, there is one on eBay right now, but it's like $17,000. So theoretically, I'm never.
Yeah, that's another thing that's interesting. Right, exactly. And if you're going for a complete set, you've got to know that there's going to be some players in there that in a regular collecting world you would never pay up for, but you're going to have to if you want to truly complete the set, because they're hard and you have players that pass away. You also have players from Latin America or Central America that have a very short career and then they disappear back to their home countries, and they only have a short window that they're here and signing. So a lot of that goes into trying to complete a set. And
then you have Clemente, where It's hard to even tell if it's him or his bodyguard, Phil Dorsey. So that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Of course, Clemente is not in the 74 set. Sadly, he's in
Nope.
73. Willie Mays is also not in 74, and he's in 73.
He
So
is.
you get
He's in
you get
74.
some of those, but there are. Oh yeah, that's
Willie
right.
Mays
You're right.
does have a 74.
Yeah,
He's
the
got
World Series card.
Yep. So
Yes.
it's his last card. It's, you know, not by name, but that's Willie Mays. So he is there, but
Yep.
his last base card is the 73.
Base card, right? But you do get the final cards of. Well, let me see. I brought it up on the screen. Luis Aparicio, Orlando Cepeda, and Al Kaline.
Yeah, you got Glass Louis in Red Sox uniform. You've got Cepeda, which I have signed, a very off cut, but I did get him to sign it. Here's the Kaline, which is a nice card. Nice. He does have a 75 highlights card. And then also, it's not mentioned, but it's the last base card for Juan Marichal with a great leg kick. He is in the traded set for 74 in an airbrushed Red Sox hat, but that's his last base card as well. So it's got, like I said, it's got a really good crossover from those 50s, 60s years, getting into kind of the 70s, you know, the dynastic A's, beginning of the Yankees championship run. It's a really interesting set to collect because you've got a combination of both those golden era cards as you get into the 70s.
Right. So I collected in 70, 71, 72 as a little kid, and I was very into them. I don't like the 73 set. I got a little bit older at that point, and I was a little bit more cynical, I think. 74, I think, is a better set than 73, just aesthetically. So I actually like 74, and then by 75, I was too cool to collect anymore. So I was out of the hobby from 75 to like 78 or so when I came back in as a teenager buying vintage cards. But I do love 74. I liked it at the time. The season was a great season for me. See, Mercer, the Yankees were really good that year. They lost the division by only 2 games, and it was a pretty exciting pennant race. So it was a fun season. And of course, you had this.
Yeah, this was the last card that I needed to complete the set. Picked this up in July. It's a fantastic. You can put your card back up much better. What a fantastic card, though, right? It's Hank Aaron is the home run king. When he's on the back of the card, he's not the home run king yet.
Exactly.
This is an example of a set where Topps is trying to be cutting edge, and I love seeing that. It's a really neat example because we have years and years of Topps sort of mailing it in with a lot of their pictures, right? And then we get 74, and they've got the Hank Aaron as the home run champ when he's not, and you've got them predicting that the Padres are moving to Washington before Ray Kroc pulled the team back to San Diego. It's a fantastic card.
We'll get into that. So when I collected in 74, this was the chase card.
Really?
And I flipped and we traded and we did all kinds of stuff, but it was really hard to get this card because everybody wanted it. Nobody wanted to trade it.
Right.
And correctly, as you said, he had 713 home runs entering the season. There was no guarantee that he was going to hit a home run. So Topps, kind of took a little bit of a leap of faith here. And, he did obviously get the home run. He got 714 in the first week of the season and 715
I think opening day
after that. But we were chasing this card. And then after this is card number 1 in the set. And then I guess it's like the next 4, 5, 6 cards are all his old Topps cards, right?
Yep. So the next 5 cards run from his 54 Topps to his 73 Topps, and it's showing his base, no all-star cards or anything. I have them right in front of me here. And I think Topps also did this for Pete Rose in 1986. I think they're the only 2 players where Topps made these cards where they honored the player and all their run.
Well, they did that, and I think it might have sparked a little interest in vintage in me because then the following season, they did those MVP cards, which showed the cards from the season, and so I got to see and know at this point, like an 11-year-old, what vintage cards look like, and they were cool. I thought they were cool. I couldn't afford them, but they were cool.
For me, they were the turn back the clock cards that Topps started putting in. And so, there's been a lot of discussion in the hobby recently about the most iconic cards. And for me, it was those cards that were on the turn back the clocks, right? The
Yeah.
1970 Johnny Bench, the 65 Koufax was on one. Those are the cards that I see as like when I own them, and I own both of those. It's just like those are the cards as a kid that I was like, wow, those are great cards.
So this is my card, I should say. The next few screens are going to be my cards. So obviously, I collect Tom Seaver, and I've did a Tom Seaver show probably like 2 years ago. But I love this card because, you know, not only is it action at Shea Stadium, it's 1973 action when they won the pennant. And there you can see John Milner playing first base, and the stands are packed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, and you know, it's Tom Terrific on the mound. He was, you know, must watch TV at that point, and must watch, go to the game at that point. You know, he was, you know, one of the best pitchers in baseball, and of course one of the best pitchers of all time. And this is just, to me, you know, this is Tom Seaver in the, you know, the way his wind up, crowded stadium, exciting game. It's just a terrific card.
Right. And if you watch Tom Seaver pitch, I mean, the big thing he was known for, other than all of his accomplishments, but while he's pitching, you know, that huge stride, his knee, you know, touching the ground in a lot of them. And this picture, you know, captures it so well. I'll also add that you can notice in this the great color matching that Topps did this year. And I think that's, you know, one of the aesthetic things that I like about 74. But on the Mets card, you've got the banner for the New York Mets in Mets orange and the nice blue border around it. I think Topps did such a great job, both with how they designed these cards, but also, as you can see in this, I mean, this in-action shot is just fantastic. And I think, again, as I said earlier, I think it's a step up for Topps, where their photography is just a little bit better than the 72s, the 73s, and their in-action shots are kind of on point. And this Seaver is, like you said, is fantastic. It shows history, it shows Seaver the pitcher, and it kind of shows off their chops for designing.
Exactly. And you know, in pitching terms, it's called the drop and drive. He was one of the major sort of early on adopters of that pitching style, as was Nolan Ryan and Jerry Koosman. It sort of came out of the Mets training. But the other thing about this is that 1974 has a lot of vertical cards, which you don't see that much of. You get some of them in 73, but you get a lot of vertical cards in 74. The other thing about these action shots is that, yes, you're entirely correct. 74 action shots are way better than 73, where you get some real like head scratchers, like foul pop-ups and Luis Alvarado playing in a softball game. You know,
right, with the parking lot behind him. I'll highlight one of the action shots. I've got, I know it shows up backwards, but the Carlton Fisk is, I think, a fantastic one. It's my Red Sox. And, you know, again, here he is, what looks like to me Yankee Stadium. And here comes the throw to him. And I think, you know, it's fantastic. Another horizontal card. It's you know, Topps was trying to do something here. And this was also the first year they released the factory set, and it was released in one series. So, you know, a lot was going on.
All right, I lost you there. All right, so yeah, you mentioned the factory set.
I will let the folks know that I am in my mother-in-law's basement.
Okay, sorry about that.
And,
you went into my schedule, so you know you had to go into less perfect circumstances internet-wise, but that's fine. So they also put out these vertical all-star cards, which we'll see one later on in your autograph cards. And then I should mention that I just bought this Bill Lee PSA 8, or is it a 9? I think it's an 8 for like $20 off of eBay. Yeah, I think at $20 off of eBay. So that was pretty cool. And then I think this is my last slide. Players that I collect: Bill Lee, Thurman Munson, Mercer, obviously. All have pretty cool cards. Of course, Bobby's action shot is 1973 style, where he's swinging and missing.
Yeah, it's kind of an awkward swing, but it's still it's just a fantastic picture. I mean, if you look at it, just you know, awkward, but not in a bad way. Awkward in just kind of a cool photo way, right? It's true baseball action.
True.
And going back to those multiplayer cards, I would add one that I think is just absolutely fantastic, and that would be the strikeout
Oh yeah.
leaders, Nolan Ryan,
Yes.
Tom Seaver, and this is the year it depicts Nolan Ryan on the back, 383 strikeouts.
Right.
For me,
Still a
that's a
record.
pretty significant card for baseball history.
So now we get into the autographs, which is great because
Yeah,
these are
of course.
these are Hall of Famers. So describe for me how you would go about getting, let's say, these 5 cards.
Yeah. So, well, first Nolan Ryan. It's my favorite Nolan Ryan card. It's a 74. I've got it here. Sent to his foundation. And if you haven't
Right.
sent anything to Nolan Ryan's foundation, fantastic service. $75 for one of the greatest pitchers of all time. An absolute steal. And on the back now, they put a sticker to authenticate it, and you can scan the QR code on the back, and it will tell
nice.
you the day of the. So I just think that's fantastic for Nolan Ryan. Yeah, Nolan Ryan card is a great action pose. That's the year he broke Koufax's record for strikeouts, and just absolutely awesome. So that came from his foundation. I sent it last year. Every year at the end of a school year, I buy myself a gift, and it was 2 school years ago. I finally picked up the Nolan Ryan card and sent it to his foundation. And then the other Hall of Famer, Jim Palmer, he's a regular TTM signer, $10 per, fantastic value. And easy to get signed. He'll sign anything for you. Burt Blyleven is a little bit more expensive. He's $20. He'll also write you a little note, thank you, and a smiley face, which is pretty cool. The Fergie Jenkins, another one. I don't know if he still TTMs, but at the time you could send to him for $10. This was probably around 2021 that I sent that. And then the Joe Torre he used to work for the MLB offices, and I just sent it to MLB, and he was a long wait time. You'd have to wait about a year, maybe a little bit more for him to respond. But I had looked over his successes, and over the previous several years, it had been a year, and then he'd sign a bunch, and then there'd be a long break where he wouldn't, and then he'd sign. And so I sent it in and said, what, I'm going to wait and hope that I get it back. And as was his custom, about a year later, 400 days maybe, it came back signed. And that was, an excellent success. And one of the testaments that when you send out, sometimes you got to wait. Don't expect it back in 2 weeks. If you're in it for the long haul, right? And I found a lot of collectors now in the TTM community. When they send out after a month, they're like, I haven't got my card back. It's a failure. He hasn't signed it. It's like, you got to wait, and you got to be patient, and patience pays off. And so that's how I was able to get the Joe Torre. Which is fantastic. Also awkward inaction card.
With Torre, I sent it to the MLB office in New York, and I've never gotten it back.
Oh, really? Yeah. So again, one of those things too, right? It's
5 years. Can I count it out at 5?
I think that's probably appropriate. Though my longest return was about 10 years, so you never know.
Wow, 10 years. Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a second. But with Torre, I should say that I sent it out, and I was doing a lot of this in 18 and 19 and then into 20. And some of the cards that I sent out in 20 disappeared because of COVID, and that probably has something to do with the Torre thing. I should also mention that I went out and bought a Joe Torre, slabbed up real autograph in 1970 card, so I'm fine on that. Jenkins, however, is a different story. When I sent it to him, it was 19, and it was in he had a foundation. I believe it was upstate New York, actually. And it was $20. Sent the card out. It came back a few weeks later, except it wasn't his card. It was a rookie card. So I had sent him a 1970 card. I got a rookie back, so I actually gained in value, but I didn't. It didn't fit my collection, and I later got him. He signed in person. He's still alive. He signed in person at White Plains, I guess, in March.
Yeah, and he does a lot of signings. He's around, and he goes to a lot of places and appearances. He's very
he's a little more,
he's
a little more expensive now than
going on that. I have the Gaylord Perry autograph, and kind of going with you is I sent this out to him, and it came back signed, as you can see, and in it was a 1962 rookie card signed. And that was first exciting, but then I kind of figured, this is somebody's card that they care about. And I was able to actually find the collector. On the back, it had listed a couple specific inscriptions they had wanted. And on Sports Collectors, like, I got a rookie card that's not mine. If it's somebody out there, if you can tell me the inscriptions, I'm happy to get it to you. And they were able to. I never got I got some other card signed back. They gave me the inscriptions. I was able to hook that collector back up with their
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah, it was fantastic. You know, at first I'm like, oh, what a win for me. But then, you know, being part of an autograph community on Sports Collectors, I was able to, maybe I should check and see if there's someone out there who's missing this significant card. And so I was able to hook the collector back up, and that was just, a nice thing. It was good to make that connection as well.
So you have 5 more Hall of Famers here that you're showing us. Any stories behind these?
Not specifically. Brooks, of course, was a fantastic signer, maybe one of the best Hall of Fame signers ever, until his death. Raleigh Fingers, $15 through the mail, very consistent. He's a collector himself. He's been on, I think, Baseball Collector Mike's channel. And I was just showing off kind of a breadth of the Hall of Famers in there, and you got really some of the classic 1970s players. And most of them are still very, very attainable. And you get really nice sample of some all-time greats there.
Yeah. Sadly, Sutton and Kaline and Brooks have all passed on.
Yeah.
But
they were all very prolific signers when they were alive. And so, even if you start a collection now, I mean, you can find many examples of them, and they were great signers.
And as we said, this is Al Kaline's final playing days regular base issue. So
same with Marichal. He's not on any of the lists when you research it, but he's not in the 75 set, and he's got the 74 traded. So this is also his last base issue set, and what a fantastic picture.
That's top 5 card in the set, I think, with that with the leg kick. It's perfect Marichal. The only thing not great about it is that the stands behind him are empty.
Completely empty, exactly.
Whereas with Raleigh Fingers, who was pitching for a World Series champion that year and a repeat from 73, he's got a full stadium behind him.
Yeah, exactly.
So these guys are all Hall of Famers, but they weren't when you got them signed, right?
Right. So, when you had approached me, one of the things that, that I had to think about is how you go about collecting a signed set. And one of the key strategies to have if you're going to do it on any kind of budget is what I would call Hall of Fame prospecting, right? Is trying to think ahead, because once they hit the Hall of Fame, their fees and their ability to sign or their willingness to sign is going to change. And so I was able to get the Cot and the Oliva for free TTM before they had made the Hall of Fame. And then Parker was, I think, $10 or $20 through Pass Pros at the time. And that's a card we had talked about earlier that I had overlooked forever. I hadn't really thought about Parker until people in the community, the YouTube community, were bringing him up as a Hall of Fame candidate. And then I really looked into his career, read more about his career, grew a greater appreciation for what he's able to accomplish. And then I was like, shoot, I need to make sure I get this card and get it out to him, because he really does have a good case. And as we saw this year, he was finally recognized, and unfortunately passed before he was able to be officially honored. But good to know that he knew that he was being honored.
He knew that. That's the key the key part of it for me.
Yeah. So if people out there are thinking of putting together a set, one of the things you need to do is look at what players are going to go up in price, and try to prospect that as best you can. If you want to save yourself some money, if you've got endless supply of money, then I suppose it doesn't matter.
You can spend $17,000 on Chico Ruiz.
Exactly.
So when it comes to Jim Cott, you must have gotten it before I got mine. I sent mine out probably in 19. And what he was doing at that point is he was taking, I think, 10 or 20 bucks. I don't remember which. But he was donating it to a local little league.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mine would be, he wasn't, I don't even know if he was really getting any Hall of Fame thought when I sent these out. Yeah. These are probably 2011 autographs for Jim Cott.
Oh, that's a long time ago. Yeah. The my Cott was before he was Hall of Fame. He was kind of a surprise Hall of Famer, frankly. as
Yeah.
was Oliva. And Oliva, I think, was before his Hall of Fame also. I got him at a live signing at Hofstra. Not the friendliest guy, I was sad to say. Oh, well. And now you got some projects here.
Yeah, so I wanted to show these pages off because I think a lot of us as collectors, right? I mean, we love to collect, but part of that gene is organizing it. And so when you can, and I'm sure you felt this too, when you can fill a binder page and have a complete page, I mean, what a good and cool feeling. So those are just, I said, 2 examples of completed binder pages, and they're all in numbered order, numerical order, of completed cards. So I can look at those pages and see that all 9 have signatures on them. And I will note that the rookies with the 4 on them, it was never my intention to get them completely signed. There is one rookie in there. It is the Frank White and Andre Thornton rookie. That is very easily completable. John Knox and Frank White I don't have signed, but they do sign regularly. So that's one I could complete, and maybe I will. This might give me a little boost to start sending some more out. But when I had started this, my goal was to get as many of the cards signed, not necessarily completed. So when I got a lot of these, their first signature, I kind of retired them into my binder and said that's good enough for me, because I was eyeing just a signature on a card, and that includes the 2-player all-stars and league leaders, as well as the checklists. If I could get a card signed by one of the players on that checklist, that was good enough for me, and I'd stick them in the binder. But filling a binder page is always something that just feels good, and it's really cool to look at.
Well, you've also got a Boston hero on these pages, Rico.
Rico, yep.
Great ambassador for the Red Sox, and signs very, very often.
Yeah, so he's pulled back on his TTMing, but if you're in the Boston area, he does frequent signings in the area, and that was one that I got in person at. They used to have a great baseball dinner up in New Hampshire, where they'd invite 15 minor leaguers and former players, and you could rack. I'd get a ton of autographs, and he signed there. And I remember being stuck in front of him. The line just wasn't moving. And they were only supposed to sign 1 per, and I had like 5 cards. And I was like, I'm just standing here, and would you sign him? And his handler was like, you're not supposed to. He's like, what else am I going to do? And he took all 5 and he signed them. And, really nice guy, always willing to talk about baseball and answer questions and stuff. And yeah, certainly a Boston icon. And
so what I did see, I'm not sure if it's happening this weekend, but Rico Petrocelli is signing at Paul Borges' actual brick and mortar card shop in Newport, Rhode Island.
Oh, is he? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a place I haven't gotten down to yet, down in Newport. There's another great shop. It's out in Northborough. Jake at Waxpack Wisdom did a show about it in July, I think, and I'm actually headed there after we get done here.
Oh, good. All right, that's well. Good luck with that. One more before we move on. One more is the Steve Blass up there. Steve Blass was a great signer. I think he's still alive, but
yeah, he still signs.
Yeah,
hero of the other than Clemente, hero of the 71 World Series for the Buccos.
Yeah. The sad part about this one, though, is that Steve Blass went into spring training, and I think it was 73, after 2 consecutive NL pennants, including a World Championship that he won Game 7, and he couldn't throw a strike.
Steve Blass.
Yeah, and then I think this is his last card in 74. I don't even know if he played much in 74, but kind of a sad story that he just completely lost the strike zone and retired.
Yep.
But then he stuck around, and he was an announcer. He was a great announcer, great ambassador for the Pirates. So good for him. Not a guy who, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, took the negativity of his career and turned it into a positive.
Right.
So another binder page there on the left, which is beautiful. And is it all done?
Yep, that's completely done. The Sonny Jackson on the right, that's it's in pen, so it's harder to see.
Yeah.
And the Leroy Stanton, who's passed away, also a little bit lighter, but it's there. And those were all through the mail. So all 9 of those I got by just sending them in the mail. Yeager to the Dodgers, and everybody else to their home. And yeah, just another binder page through just work and research and sending them out.
Now Roger Moret is a bit of an odd story. He's the one that went into a trance when he was in
like a
in
kind
the
of a
Red Sox
yep.
locker room, and he was sort of had some mental illness issues. But I guess he signs, or he signed.
He signed. He's since passed away, but he
Right.
did have a window of a couple of years where he was signing. And after the Red Sox, I think he moved on to the Braves for a couple of years. So
Yeah.
that wasn't the end of his career, but it definitely stunted it a bit. But yeah, he became a good signer, and he made it through his mental health difficulties, which was great. And he was part of that '75 Red Sox pennant winning team. It's beloved around here, and so yeah, he's not a key card to the set, but a great one to have for sure.
And then on the right, we have the what you mentioned a little before. The San Diego Padres were looking to move, and were pretty close to locking it into moving back to Washington, D.C. Before I guess it was Ray Kroc came in and bought the team in San Diego, but
Mr.
they
McDonald
printed up the entire team with Washington, and then on the bottom right, National League.
Yeah, so it's actually not the entire team. Dave Winfield doesn't have a Washington variation. So what I've gathered is that because they were doing all of the whole set, they were printing all of it. The first 3 sheets, they printed a bunch, and it was enough where they were just like, send it out, but they were able to kind of catch the last few sheets. So no Winfields got out. None of the last few sheet players got out as a Washington variation. But like you said, Topps was trying to be cutting edge. They did it with the Hank Aaron card, and San Diego was going to move to Washington. There is a 1974 Washington uniform that was modeled by one of the players. And then it got caught up in litigation. I don't remember exactly how. And then Ray Kroc came in and said, nope, I'm going to buy the team and I'm keeping it in San Diego. So Topps wiped those cards out, redid the sheets. And so all the cards are available in the San Diego Padres, but some did get out as Washington National League because Topps was trying to stay as cutting edge as they could.
Yeah, when I was collecting, we knew about these, and I think some people had them, but I never owned a Washington card as a kid because I guess maybe they weren't distributed in New York as much as they were elsewhere, or whatever it was. But I thought they were super, super rare until I got back into the hobby as an adult and realized that like you can get them pretty cheap still.
Yeah, yeah, they're neat. They're neat cards for sure, but they're not going to cost you an arm and a leg. I mean, even Willie McCovey is in that variation,
right?
And that's the most expensive. But you can find a decently conditioned one for $10. So neat footnote, but not rare.
And then you titled this one.
So
I guess
here we've got.
Yeah.
Yeah, get them while you can. So if you're collecting a set, you have the opportunity to get players, and when you have the means, and if you have the means, try to get them when they're alive. It's so much easier. Bill Buckner on the left, I sent to him months before he passed, and it was another card that I had for a while and just never sent, and finally got it done. J.R. Richard the same. He was signing through Pass Pros, and Jerry Koosman is still signing, but his autograph is getting shaky. That I got a while ago, so it's very clean. And it's also 3 great players that represent baseball history in the 70s going into the 80s. Koosman goes back, of course, to the 60s. And like I said, 74 is a great bridge set of the 60s and the 80s with an excellent decade in the 70s. It kind of represents all of that. And so those 3 cards, are an example. If you're trying to collect a set and you've got the ability to get some of these important players that have a significance in baseball history that might not be Hall of Famers, try to get them done, because you'll regret it. And I would regret not having the J.R. Richard or certainly the Bill Buckner, and I might not have sent them had I not been focusing on the 74 set.
Well, that's a good lesson to pay attention to, and I guess we'll get to it. I think it's the next screen, but this one, you got some cool ones on the left. I love the Fran Healy, of course, with Munson in it. But those players you suggested are a little more difficult to get.
Yeah, so Ed Goodson, the Giants, and Fran Healy on the Royals. they had windows where they would sign, and really as a TTMer, you kind of have to jump on that and get the cards out, because they would stop signing. Either they get too many requests, or they just were signing for some reason at that time. So those were two players that I was able to, I saw that they were signing, was checking returns, and I sent them out immediately and was able to get them back. And they've since kind of shut down signing. And then Bucky Dent was free forever, and I was able to, that's his rookie card. I was able to get that signed. And he does still sign, but it's for a fee. So I was able to save myself a little bit of money by getting it when I had the opportunity. And so, when you're set collecting, it's all about utilizing the opportunity that you have at that moment, when you're on a budget and when you're trying to get it done. And so, those are two players, Fran Healy and Ed Goodson, where I was able to say, hey, they're signing right now. I'm gonna take a shot, because I might not have another. And then glad to, of course, and lucky to get those returns.
And then on the right, we have the team cards, which is cool because you got multiple signatures on.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think, are you going for any team cards yourself?
No.
Or have you left those out? No. So what I decided for the team cards is, just for a couple of years, I was just sending out to, those are the 74. So looking at the 73 rosters and sending out to as many players as I could, until I kind of felt like I should retire the card. And I did lose a couple cards along the way. I had a nice Mets card that was signed by a bunch of players. And then I sent it to Duffy Dyer, the backup catcher, and he returned my card signed, except for the team card. So I had to start that one over. Yeah, it hurt a little bit, and I was kind of angry at good old Duffy for a bit, but I got over it and resent it and have a couple signatures. But that one, I had a bunch. And so it was a risk, and I thought I was willing to take it, and sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. And the A's card, significant because they're right in the middle of the World Series run there. And I've got some good players on that. I've got Joe Rudy, Ted Kubiak, Sal Bando, John Odom, Dick Green, Daryl Knowles, and Bert Campaneris, all kind of pivotal players in that. It's missing, of course, the Hall of Famers. But it's good enough for me, and it has a nice little sample of the players there. And once I had enough, I retired the card, went to the binder, and won't go back out. Don't want to risk it. And then the Brooks at the bottom again. I wasn't going in hoping I'd have both of them signed. I got Brooks to sign it. Wasn't looking for a Santo. Of course, he's passed on. And that card retired for my set. One signature on the card's good enough for me on those.
Yeah. I did with the 70 has the front end of the set all double rookie cards. So some of them I have twice signed, but some of them I don't, and I am accepting that I'm not going to. There are some triple rookie cards at the back end of the set, but like I got not Dwight Evans, Darrell Evans. Darrell Evans is a good one to get because it's a high number. He's important historical player, if not a Hall of Famer, quality wise. And he signed it, and that's it. Like you said, I retired it into my binder, and that's the end of that. So, sometimes you can't get them all on one card, and you move on.
Right.
Here's another set of cards where, you get them while you can, right?
Exactly. Paul Blair was sent months before he passed, and I include the unsigned Becker. First, it's a great photo of him. He's in a Cubs uniform there. It's at Wrigley Field, but it lists him as a Padre. And I had that card for years and just never sent it. He was a $5 fee, and for whatever reason, I just never came up with $5 to send. And so it's kind of that opposite thing where I've shown some cards here where I jumped on the opportunity, but here's one that I never did, and so that card will remain in my binder as an unsigned card. When really it should be, because he was a great signer, and I just never sent. And then Davey Johnson, he recently passed last week. He was a great TTM signer, and for those of the people out there who were able to send out to him while he was living, very consistent. He was a $5 or $10 fee, and he's 70s and 80s baseball history can't really be told without him there, even into the 60s with the Orioles teams. So he was, another key player. He won't make the Hall of Fame, but you can't really tell the story of baseball without him. So, great to have his autograph, great to have him represented in the set as a signed card.
And beautiful signature. The one that I have, you have a little bit of he signed in the dark.
Yeah, the dark
card. But the one that I have, his signature is fantastic. The 70
Yep,
card. So
absolutely.
yeah, Davey was great, and yeah, R.I.P. Kind of uh, a guy in Mets history who's really important for
Yep.
a number of reasons. But anyway, so that's that, and now we come to our last slide. And why are we showing a 1976 card?
Why would that be in the 74 set? And I sent this to you kind of out of the blue, right?
Yeah,
And, again, in this vein of reaching out to collectors out there who might be watching this and thinking they want to put together a set, there's some things you have to know going into it. And one of them is that there are certain cards that are very hard, if not impossible, to find, not because the player passed away or because they were unavailable to sign in some way, but because they either refused to sign the card. In 1986, if you're collecting that set, Doug Flynn for years refused to sign his 1986 card. There's Ricky Wright in 1987, his Rangers card. He refuses to sign that card. And Jim Burton's another one. In 1976, he was the losing pitcher in the 1975 World Series Game 7. He gave up the bloop single to Joe Morgan that put the Reds ahead 4-3. And he was a player that I didn't really appreciate his major league career. He kind of wanted to forget it. I think that he was kind of burdened as the losing pitcher in that World Series for the Red Sox, continuing their long drought. But I have the card signed, and it's because I think as collectors, we have appreciation, a lot of us, at least in this community, for baseball history and for player contributions themselves. And what I did with Jim Burton is I steered away from his major league career and I researched his minor league career and what he was able to achieve there, as well as his college career. He pitched for Michigan. And I spent a good amount of time researching, and then I wrote him a 3-page letter using my ability to craft words and my love of baseball to just say, hey, I'm appreciative of all levels of baseball play. And as fans, you go to any game and there's a star in that game or someone who hits a home run or pitches a great game. And for that moment, you see them as an excellent player. They may not be a Hall of Famer. They may be, a one hit wonder, but for that moment, there's significance. And I expressed that in the letter that, what you did in Michigan, like that was significant for some people. And that's significant in Michigan baseball history.
yeah,
And just taking the time to express that to players. I knew people on Sports Collectors who had sent to him in upwards of 10 times and received nothing back. And I wrote him a 3-page letter and going through what I thought was appreciative of his career and the impact it could make on people. And 2 months later, this card came back in the mail. And so it's kind of a dual lesson that I wanted to send, is that when you're collecting a set, you've got to realize that there's going to be some players, like Chico Ruiz that you said, that are going to be very hard to find when you'd think, why would I spend this money on this card? So you've got to know that going in. But also, sometimes it is possible with work and use your knowledge of baseball and the love of baseball history and the hobby to your advantage. And if you can express that to players, sometimes you can luck out. And it's worth taking that shot sometimes. And so, that Jim Burton card,
yeah.
I'm going to get it slabbed from Garrett. That card, Jim Burton, a 1-year wonder in the major leagues, had not much success. That's over $100 card. And, I think patience pays off. I think using passion pays off. I think spending time researching and reading and all that stuff that we do as collectors, it pays off. And if you just put it to use, I don't want to say miracles can happen, but that was certainly something I wasn't expecting and couldn't have been more thrilled when I saw that envelope.
That's just a great lesson, and it's a great lesson for sort of collecting in general. That if you know the story behind the card, it makes the card so much more meaningful. And in this circumstance,
It really does.
Yeah.
I know you collect those 1914 Braves, and it's because, correct me, it's your father or your grandfather followed them, or a fan, and that has a passion for you, right? And that's why you chase it.
Father, grandfather, and uncle is the 48 Braves is my uncle. But
Okay.
Yeah, it's my grandfather grew up less than a mile from Braves Field, so
Yeah. So
and
I'll
my
add that my grandfather, he passed when I was 3, but he used to sell programs at Brace Field.
oh,
He grew up a
nice.
Braves fan as well. Yeah.
And
So
the other
um,
connection is on the other end. Two of my children went to Boston University. One of them graduated during COVID, so we couldn't go to the ceremony. But my daughter graduated on Nickerson Field, which is where
right.
Braves Field
Where,
used to be.
yep.
So I
And one
thought
of the
that was a
grandfamilies.
really nice sort of you know wraparound family history thing.
Exactly.
But one of the things that you said about players and not signing certain cards kind of hit me because I remember when I slid the 1970 card to Louis Tiant at a live signing in 2018 or 19. He gave kind of a frown because it was the 1970 was when he got
Yeah.
traded to the Twins and then he got hurt and his career was on the downslide. And I'm sure he gets plenty of opportunities to sign Red Sox cards as well. He should. But I'm thinking he sees this Twins card. And he's probably like, why am I signing this? But he signed it. So, but there are also
Right. For
players who won't
players.
sign the SSPC sets from 1975, 76 that are
Right.
sort of bootleg sets. There are certain players who
Yep.
won't sign them at all because they never got any residuals from them or any contract
Absolutely.
money. So
And
that
Don Larson was similarly. He was in a lot of sets in the early 2000s, the Greats of the Game sets, and I guess some of them were printed without his permission, and he
oh
wouldn't sign those as well.
yeah. Well, I brought you on because I thought it would be great to talk about 1974, but you did so much more than that. I mean, this is really you're sort of a great teacher of the methods by which you can get autographs, including TTM and ways to go about it, and learn from your mistakes, but also learn from other people's mistakes. And so, not sending out the Beckert is something you learned, and it helped you, send out to other players who might not be with us all that much longer. And that's one of the lessons of collecting sets from 50 years ago is a lot of these guys are in their late 70s, 80s, some in their 90s, and they had long lives, and that's wonderful, but they're not going to be with us that much longer. So it's time to
Right.
strike when the iron's hot.
Right. Yeah, you really do, and set realistic goals for yourself, right? And it's a lot of the lessons you use when you're collecting regularly, you can apply it to collecting signed sets and TTMs and it's like anything else. And yeah, you just gotta make your mistakes, mistakes and successes are how we learn, right? And same in collecting.
Absolutely. Well, Alan, thank you for coming on. Viewers, next week I'm going to be at the Philly show, so my show will be about the Philly show. It won't air until Sunday. I'm going to be out there all day on Saturday. And then the week after that, we have another guest coming on for a great show about an old-time pre-war player. But this one was a good one. Thank you, Alan, so much. And we're going to say take it easy.